September 21st, 2017. The time is 6:30 p.m. and the regular meeting of the Greensburg Redevelopment Commission is called to order. At this time, if everyone would please silence your electronic devices. And if we'll all stand, we'll begin our meeting to pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To comply with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the city requests that participants in this meeting complete a voluntary anonymous survey that is available on the table in the back of the room. Jody, would you conduct a roll call, please?
Yes. David Weigel?
Present.
Adam Wenzel?
Present.
Ken Dornick?
Present.
Shannon McClure?
Present.
Diana McKenzie? Here. Jody Kaufman? Here.
Thank you. First item on our agenda is to approve the minutes of our regular meeting on August 17th and then our special meeting we had on August 22nd, 2017. Are there any corrections to the minutes? If there are not any corrections to the minutes, they stand approved as presented. Item number 2 is update of project status for Veterans Way, Phase 2. Mr. May, do you have anything for us?
I do. Good evening.
Good evening.
Structure Point has started sending us a little 2-page summary of what's going on with the project. And if you all would like, I can forward these to you before your meetings, or I can just simply review the pertinent points. However you want to handle that, just let me know. Since we last met, we have received from NDOT our purchase order for right-of-way acquisition services, and we have notified Structure Point. We have provided them their notice to proceed with those services. And late this afternoon, I saw an email come across my desk, and I didn't actually open it, but I believe it's a schedule for the right-of-way services. We are getting ready to start the appraisal process. And Luke, do you have any better information than I do at this point? Okay. The indication was it'll take about 2 months to get the appraisals and the review appraisals done, at which time they will be provided to us and we will need to approve those. And I believe that technically that will be the Board of Works that will approve the appraisals, as they are the contracting agency and you are the fiducial agents in this process. So that is fortunately moving forward. The plan is to have right-of-way cleared by late July of next year, have stage 3 plans, which are 90% complete, construction plans completed by July of next year, and then final tracing submitted by September, about a year from now. And that would lead to a December 18 letting, which would be about perfect, anticipating the start of construction in March of 19. They are continuing to work on utility coordination, and there is a proposal to hold a meeting in October here in the next couple of weeks with all of the involved utilities to review their relocation plans and make sure that we have a clear understanding of what we need from them and what they're planning to do. Environmental and surveys are complete. Geotechnical investigations are complete. Pavement design is complete. As I said, they're working on what we call stage 3 plans, or 90% complete plans. And they are working on the traffic signal modifications, the design for such at Lincoln 3 and Veterans Way. And they're working on the design of the retaining wall there at the end of the Tractor Supply property. We do have all of our notices in place, and we are moving forward with the right-of-way acquisition process.
When you were talking about the lights, does that include the pedestrian part as well, with the timing and that whole access?
That's my understanding, is that we will incorporate appropriate appropriate pedestrian phase across State Road 3. Yes,
Okay.
as part of that signal road construction. I haven't seen the plans yet, but I believe that is what will happen there. Questions? Oh, the other thing I can share is we talked a little about this last month. We have received proposals for construction engineering services, and we have a selection committee established, which includes Ken. And we're going to try and get together one day next week and get our selection committee organized, our scoring committee organized, and then we will develop the scoring. And the process will be that the top 3 scored firms will be invited for an oral presentation. And then after the oral presentation, the 3 firms that do have that opportunity will be scored again. And that will identify our first priority for negotiation of the fee and contract.
Anybody have any other questions? Thank you, that's encouraging.
Thanks, Ron.
Thanks, Ron.
Stay up here, Mom.
Our next item is our project list, Lincoln Street, Rebekah Park. I don't know if there's much we need to talk about with Lincoln Street or Rebekah Park. At our special meeting, we made a motion to spend $150,000 for some of the Sneller projects at the Rebekah Park. The trail connection and soccer fields and such. Do you know of anything we need to, or Jody, do you know of anything we need to?
Well, I know they announced community crossings grant for as a whole yesterday. So I don't know if you guys want to ideally know at least what the city's getting, so that we have an idea of
Do you have some
where we're
information
going to
on
look
that?
at.
I do, and you also have Lincoln Street further down on your agenda, so I didn't know if you wanted to get into this now or later. We did receive via the NDOT website, we don't have official notification yet, but the website reports that we are to receive, the city of Greensburg is to receive $701,000 in really round numbers here. We do not have any official notification of what projects were approved. We did apply for 5 projects. Our first priority was Lincoln Street in the neighborhood of $600,000. And then we had 4 other projects that were individual street or segments of individual streets overlay. We do not have an official notification of which ones are approved, but if you look at Lincoln Street, our number 1 priority, and you look at our 3rd priority, which was an overlay of, I don't know, 6 or 7 blocks. If you add our requested amounts together, you get within 1 penny of the amount that we were notified of receiving. So we're highly optimistic that Lincoln Street has been approved. And we're awaiting official word from the state that that is in fact correct.
Is that for funding from now through June 30th of next year? Or is that for calendar year 2018, January to December? Or do you know
We
that?
have to have the work under contract by April the 15th of 18. I don't remember the completion date. I think they actually allow us a couple of years to expend the money, but it has to be under contract by next April.
So when will you
that's-
know for sure?
I'm sorry?
When will you know for sure the 600,000 or the 700,000?
As soon as we can get NDOT to tell us. We were kind of anticipating they would have sent out official notices to all of the communities, but they had, I don't remember, 300.
Like 340.
Yeah, there was a bunch of applications they had to sort through. So they did tell us that they had in excess of 260 million in applications, and they had an estimated 150 million available. It appears in looking at the awards that those that received money got about 2/3 of what they could have potentially asked for. The million was the maximum you could get. And there were a lot of them at 670,000. We were at 701. Decatur County got 735, maybe, something in that neighborhood.
Wow.
So there were a lot of new applicants, we were told, smaller communities that maybe didn't apply a year ago. St. Paul got some money, Westport got some money, little town of Holton down in Ripley County got some money, Milan got some money, Augsust got some money. So it was spread around fairly well. Just wish there could have been more in the pot so we could have had more.
Hopefully that will be $600,000 for Lincoln Street.
Yeah. It would be very, I don't want to assure you that that's what's happening, because I don't want to be held accountable later, but it would be highly coincidental that we don't end up with those. I mean, the numbers just hit right on us.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like that's where we're going. A couple of pieces of information about Lincoln. Do we want to continue to talk about Lincoln, or do you want to come back to it?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. You may have noticed that Andy Sholey's crew has been out working on the survey that's underway. So that's good. I'd like to have that data back so that we can get really serious about developing the plans. We've been doing those things that we can do in advance of that. I have talked with Jeff Smith further about the sewer situation, and we do not have a final answer, but there is great optimism that from Washington Street to Walnut can be slip lined, which would not involve digging up the street, and that's good for several reasons, one of which is it's more economical, when it's the proper treatment, a more economical way to do it. The jury is still out on Washington to Main Street and further south. That sewer runs down and crosses the railroad and goes on down towards the treatment plant. But what I'm most immediately concerned about is that one block. The jury is still out on that, and there are some alternative treatments that are possible if it needs some work, and we will just continue to seek data on that. But it feels better than it did a few days ago, quite frankly.
And I don't remember what we talked about with water lines.
Water department tells me that they believe they are good. They do not feel like they have issues, so that's the assumption or the theory I'm operating under. So if the sanitary sewer can be dealt with without digging up the street, it could be a very good financial savings.
Any questions about Lincoln Street?
And to remind you all, our original estimate for Lincoln was 1.2 million, assuming we get the 600,000. There's 600,000, and then the one cost that was not eligible for the CCMG was the street lighting, and I believe our estimate on that was roughly 200,000. So the whole project cost ought to be $1.4 million, $1.5 million at the absolute worst. Should never say that out loud in a meeting. And if you get the 600,000, then the cost to the Redevelopment Commission would be 800,000 in that neighborhood.
Do we have a projected finish time on the survey when we'll get a report? 1 month, 2 months, 3 months?
I'm going to be Andy's worst enemy if I don't have it in a month. That was the arrangement that Andy and I had, was that it has to get done because we need it to move forward.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
Anything we need?
Thanks again, Ron.
Anything we need to discuss on the project list regarding Rebekah Park?
Much.
To say?
There's an additional.
Okay. Item 4, Chief Bridges, bikes and UTV.
Good evening,
Good
Chief
evening.
Bridges with the Greensburg Police Department. I'm gonna hopefully briefly talk about some things that led up to this, and I'm also going to go ahead and throw out there, if this project seems to be one that is I guess confrontational, I am willing to pull the proposal off the table and that. But I was asked to do something for the TIF board, so I'm going to at least give out what I have found on the walking trails, what we're seeing in law enforcement, and the opportunity maybe in the future, if this proposal does not want to be voted on tonight, in the future what the TIF board maybe will want to look at going forward. Again, I'm going to go over a few things on what we are kind of seeing now and what we will definitely be seeing in the future, and what we can maybe do to combat some of the things we are seeing. My biggest thing when I took office 3 years ago, of course, was community involvement and trying to get in with the community, finding out new ways of policing and getting our officers involved. Just as of about 3 weeks ago, we are now finally fully staffed. And that, so some of the projects that I've asked to do in the past have not been up to my standards, but I do feel with the full staff that we do now have, we can get those programs going. First, what we are seeing right now is the year to date from 2016 to 2017, we've seen an increase of 45% crime rate in Greensburg, Indiana. We are up 16% total calls, 75% thefts, burglaries are up 30%. Drug offenses, which is the alarming thing that we are seeing, are up 97% in the city of Greensburg. Last year, or in our OWIs, I'm sorry, are up 23%. Last year we had 4 fatalities in the city of Greensburg, and our crash reports were up almost 124 crashes. So this year, what we decided to do, we felt like we needed to enforce more traffic enforcement. And right now what we are seeing is we have not had any fatalities this year, and our crashes are down 16%. So again, what we're doing is, and this will all lead back to what is going on tonight, and that we're trying to dedicate our resources in areas to where we're seeing that we need to put them. When the walking trails first started, I guess, being implemented, I was just promoted into the chief's position. And one of the first things that we heard on the walking trails were the issues that the neighbors were seeing with narcotics, possible break-ins and stuff like that. And we had a meeting out at the walking trails with a group of about 8 to 15. And unfortunately, there's not much that anybody can come up with because with a city ordinance and stuff like that. So I then talked to the past administration and advised them that the one thing that I know has been done at other cities, and that is the bike safety program. Again, I talked to several cities. What we found with that is that there is definitely a reduction in crime when seeing officers out on the bikes. Again, this program's not up to where I want it to be. I fully understand that when I first came out with it, I wanted to go gung-ho on it, and again, we're just now fully up to staff. But as of 2017, I can tell you that we have put 50 hours, nearly 50 hours on the bikes. We've done bike safety classes for the schools out at Rebekah Park, on the walking trails for the Decatur County Parks Board. And we've done several other organizations. We participated in downtown festivals with the Fall Festival, Tenderloin Throwdown, and we've also been requested to host or be out visible on the walking trails, and that during the 5K races that have you seen on the weekends and at nights. Some of those events we've actually been requested to provide 3 to 4 officers at times on bikes or some other means of transportation. Unfortunately, again, we do have 3 bikes. I do have some new officers that are showing some interest, but again, we have to train them and make sure they're wanting to do the program. So again, that's what we're seeing on the walking trails. We have made, I would say, 5 to 8 narcotics arrests on the Rebekah Park area in the past year, and most of those have either been methamphetamine or heroin charges, with needles being left behind on the walking trails. So we are trying to police that as much as we can. Again, another thing, and like I said, correct me if I'm saying something wrong, please correct me. Again, this is information I've kind of gathered through news media and all that. I know future projects that they were talking about are soccer fields, possible amphitheater, dog park, and more walking trails that eventually might combine all the city's walking trails, which, don't get me wrong, I think these are wonderful projects and I have no problem with it. My only problem, and like I said, is something that I'm going to have to work to for the future, is how we can properly provide services to the city to keep these services or their areas safe in that. One thing I've noticed, what we have seen around town, and again, this will come back to the walking trails, is a new project that I'm looking to start, and I've actually been in contact with the organizations of this, is Project Lifesaver, which is a project that directly deals with autistic kids and dementia and Alzheimer patients. In Indiana this year, we've had 3 young kids die, autistic children die due to getting out and running and getting into bodies of water. Unfortunately, we have walking trails in close areas that are unprotected waters. So unfortunately, me knowing firsthand how quick a kid can run out and be attracted to water, because my son is one, I've been working with this organization, and we are going to be getting training to where in the future, if we have a high-risk child or an adult that will get out, then they will actually be wearing wristbands, and we will have a device that we can use that we could put on if they get out into the fields or we're on the walking trails. We can use bikes or other means to get to them faster. But normally the recovery time on that is 90 minutes quicker than not having any tools whatsoever. So again, that's another thing that I'm starting, just something that we're seeing out here in these open areas, because in the past we have had kids in the high school area, junior high area that have been autistic, that have ran into the open fields near Corey Addition. And of course, our first fear is, are they getting to or near a body of water? So that's one thing that we are also looking to do. And just to let everybody know, if you weren't aware, 10% of the population over 65 have dementia and Alzheimer's. 1 in 68 kids have autism. And right now, Greensburg does have some nursing homes that are dedicated for the disease of, or the dementia and Alzheimer's. And if you didn't know, Greensburg is currently in the works of building a 9,000-foot autism facility, which I do believe will bring families from outside of town. And again, our biggest thing is their safety. Some things that I've kind of been told is a couple of things with the UTV, and again, I'm willing to take these off the table because, like I said, it's completely what you guys want to do. I'm just giving you guys suggestions on if these proposals do not go through. The yellow center barriers are causing possible problems. They are becoming corroded, so you are not able to get emergency vehicles to some of those areas because the bolts and that have become corroded. So that might be something that the walking trail committee might want to look at in the future. And the other one is, I know the fire department did have a UTV at one time, and they did get rid of it. I did speak with the person that they gave it to, and I know the fire department has been inquiring about getting one back. Again, that's just something that we're looking into, but I don't know if there's any questions in that, but again, if this needs to be pulled off of tonight's proposal, I fully understand. I just wanted to update the group on what we are seeing on the walking trails in Rebekah Park, and what we can hopefully do in the future to provide services to that area.
You do have bikes now?
Yes, we do. We have 3.
3?
Mm-hmm.
Are they fully utilized?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yeah, currently we do have 3 officers that do go out. The thing is, and a lot of people don't think of, is, you know, I'm a 6'4" guy, and we have an officer that could be 5'8". Well, there's no way that he's going to be able to fit on a 23-inch frame, because one, if he's trying to do a certain maneuver or patrol a certain area, there's a risk for injury for that officer because he's not being properly fitted to his equipment. So that's just the thing that we're looking at. And like I said, if this proposal's knocked out, I am currently looking at other grant means to fund that service. So again, I just wanted to kind of update the board what's going on. So
If you got 3 more bikes, do you have people interested?
I do. I have 2 right now that are definitely interested. Yes.
So if we spent $1,200 per bike on a person, and then they decide to leave within the next few months,
Mm-hmm.
and that bike's fitted to that person,
Mm-hmm.
is there some sort of reimbursement for that expense similar to the expense of what a firefighter that leaves in a year has to pay back for their uniform?
There could be, and that's one thing that we have faced. Again, I've replaced 10 officers in the past 2.5 years, which is half my department, and that's one concern, is because some of those officers I've sent to training, And 6 months after sending them to training, they bolted on me.
Yeah.
So I've told my officers, if I hear any rumblings that you might be leaving, I'm not gonna send you to training. But that's one thing that I've looked at down the line, I talked to the fire chief about, that maybe the city would wanna incorporate is something to the effect of put that with training, because if you're getting on these bikes and that, you have to get certain training. So if you leave within a certain amount of period of time, if they sign that contract, then yeah, they could be hopefully liable to paying that money back.
I mean,
So-
it's to me kind of different than a car. You don't get a car to fit you. You can clearly let anyone
Right.
get in their car, but
Right.
a bike has to be proven. I get that has to be personally fitted
Right.
for each person. That makes sense.
Can it be refitted from a tall person to a short person? Can the same bike be,
No.
no?
Unfortunately, no. Like I said, we do currently have a 23, a 21 inch, and a 19. We have two guys that are 6'4", 6'3", and we have one that's, like I said, about 5'8", 5'9". Another one's looking to come on is around 6 foot, and another one's probably 6'2". So, and like I said, if we have something going on where we're going to put other guys on, like I said, just having that backup. But again, that's kind of, again, and I'm planning for the future, and that I know some of this stuff is not an immediate right now, and that, but my thing and just what I'm hearing is, like I said, in the future, if not done tonight, I think it's something that the board needs to take a look at. If all these projects do go out in that area, some things that maybe need to be looked at. So,
Can I ask you a question on the UTV?
Mhm.
So is the one that was given away 2 years ago? Is it? Is my understanding it's not actually gone? It's still here, District 9, EMA.
Correct.
So
it's actually, I believe, in Clarksburg, is what I was told.
That's what I was told as well.
Yes, and Clarksburg will not.
But my understanding is it's not actually Clarksburg's. So
That
my
could be.
understanding is it is the county, District 9s, or EMAs. There's a little. So, and my understanding is EMA has 2. Neither one really, honestly, is getting used minus prorating.
Hmm.
Is that incorrect? Is this something we could work out for that patrol where we probably have to fit it with stuff?
You know, and there's always that possibility. Our concern is if we're gonna need it at a moment's notice, it's available to us, and sometimes theirs may not be. You know, there was a couple instances last week to where we utilized, or there was 2 of their pieces of equipment that were utilized, and both of them were dead. They weren't upcut, where ours would be in a building and all that, and would be used for either us or the fire department. Fire department would also have use for it. So, you know, there are ones available. We've talked to the schools. The school said, you know, yeah, we have utilized it, or you guys could utilize ours in emergency situations, but everyday use, we're not gonna allow you to use because we don't have we have several sporting events going on also, so we can't promise you guys to use it every single day, so.
Sure. And then, my understanding in the past, the one that's used by the sewage department was also utilized by emergency services. Is that still a possibility?
That I have not heard that.
Because I
So.
was told it was fitted with sirens. It can be, whatever's on the back of it can be taken off if you need it for medic. And it just would probably need, it maybe even has a locking gun safe, I'm not sure. I've heard it was in use in the past as well.
And that could be, yeah.
Okay.
I could just say, I mean, like I said, I just know that, like I said, if we would need it at a moment's notice, we wouldn't even worry about calling them. We would just utilize what we got and go, because, like I said, we're gonna get there as soon as we can to do whatever. So.
On some of the thinking of the trails at Rebekah Park, what would be more appropriate, bikes or the UTV?
I think in that area, you're looking at bikes. My concern is once you get out into behind the buildings, a carousel and stuff like that, if there's something going on there, or at the Charles Buell. Another thing right there by Rebekah Park, unfortunately, is across the road you have the railroad tracks, across the state highway. And what a lot of people don't know in Greensburg is we're having a high population of homeless people that either stay down in that little bridge area behind Levenstein's that are coming back into town committing crimes, and we have a place called Tent City that's behind the car wash that's been breaking into our storage units and stuff like that. And we've also had several issues with narcotics. So one thing that we're trying to do is find a different way to utilize going back and searching those areas, because if we take our cars back there, I don't know if anybody's taking a car back there, but we're either going to be getting a little bit of a paint job or repairing a tire and that. So it's just, like I said, we're just fighting, unfortunately, the battle this, and like I said, unfortunately, I'm sure everybody's been paying attention, but you're not looking for a new jail for at least another 4 years, more than likely. So,
I guess one other question that comes up is this a city council issue as opposed to getting money from TIF?
that I can't answer. Again, I was approached on ways to hopefully make the trails safer and all that. So that's why I'm here.
I'd agree with that question, David, is where does it go? I know last time we kicked something to city council, the overlay, it got kicked around and nothing got done, which was a little disappointing at the end of the overlay situation. So, I hate to keep kicking stuff in that direction if it's something that, we can help with, number one. Number two, that we're actually possibly, with all the trails we're doing and with the giving the money to Stellar and everything they're building out there, it seems like there's a need. Maybe I'm missing this, but it seems like there's a need for the bikes and the UTV.
I guess my concern is last month we already told a group we don't have the money, that we've already got to scrounge for it to finish what the projects are that we want to do. And this, to me, opens up a can of worms of what if they need a police car next, or what if somebody needs a fire truck next, or, honestly, what if we need an ambulance desperately?
Right.
And we now are facing, we read in the headlines, the county is cutting everywhere in every direction.
Sure.
And I think we're opening a can of worms that it scares me, that's all. That we're not doing the stewardship with the money that we just literally told another group last month that we can't help them either. And that was actually something that was directly on our project list, that we couldn't do as much as we wanted.
I think we did a fair amount with Stellar. If
I'm
that's
not
the
saying we
question.
didn't do a fair amount, but
Yeah.
I'm saying I think that there were,
Right.
I just,
Does this fit into our project list in any way?
I think it fits with the trail, the Rebekah Park Trail, that we're obviously continuing on through Stellar to the library.
I guess to me, so when he says that we can't get the yellow barriers down that are meant to get down so their vehicles can already get on there, that's a bigger problem to me than buying them another vehicle to get on. Because honestly, I can drive my Jetta down that thing. I yell at people all the time for their cars on the track already, for four-wheelers on the track already. I'm on it weekly. And people think I'm a really mean person because I'm saying get your motorized vehicle off our trail. But it's because people don't understand the upkeep of it, and clearly now the yellow things aren't going down, so we've got an upkeep situation that I'd rather start there and fix that first and see if it works.
We can't legally pay for maintenance though, correct?
Yeah, that's
So-
the one, that's one no.
We can't
But
pay
is it
for
like a
maintenance.
misinstallation of something that we've already, did we do that?
I don't think we can go back and do any maintenance on anything, including Veterans Way or anything else, correct, Vieta? And then as far as a vehicle, if someone came and asked for an actual patrol vehicle or an ambulance, that's something else that, from my understanding, Chris, that Mr. Tebby, this would not fit. We cannot do those in any project, an actual vehicle, correct?
As you guys are well aware, there's certain criteria statutorily that have to be followed, and it has to be connected to your project list.
So bikes and UTVs aren't really considered vehicles then? I guess to me, I don't feel like a bike or a UTV is any different than an ambulance or a police car. It's still a vehicle to get people from one means to another. I just think it's a gray area, that's all. And I'm not against it, I know you need it.
Well, yeah, that's what I said.
I absolutely see I can see the need for it, I just don't know that we're the right avenue in this situation. The overlay district literally affected us. That was us. I supported it.
Right.
And I support him getting that stuff, absolutely. I
Right.
wrote the stories on the bike,
Sure.
written the story on the UTV, so I know a little bit about it, but just don't know if we're the right ones, that's all. My opinion, I don't know.
Brandon, do you have any comments or input?
Well, I think that it's definitely something that's gonna have to be looked at. As the trails get completed and more people start using them, it's the safety of our community.
Right.
Is it important?
That's pretty important.
Is it pressing that we need to do something tonight? Can we table this? And
Absolutely not. I don't think it's something that needs to be done tonight, no.
look a little,
That's my feeling.
we could table it. Look at it next month.
I mean, it can be,
If
we can look at it ongoing. It's not something I think that's,
I think we,
I agree with Jody in thinking that if there is something mechanically wrong with the stops that are there, that needs to be fixed, and I'm not sure.
That to
who
me is like
responsible-
sooner
who's
than
responsible
later,
for
so
that.
if that's not asked, then somebody else.
I'm
needs to
just
search
not
it
hearing
out.
about it. so
I believe
didn't
that would be an
know.
issue, and I'm sorry if I'm misspeaking, but I believe Brian Robbins had a big thing with the walking trails, or he was at least on that board.
Well, there's
So-
a trail committee.
So yes, I don't know if that's something that needs to be brought up to them, so it's just something that was brought to my attention that I felt like needed to be.
Do you know ideally which ones?
No,
or
I do
really?
not. No, I did
I
not.
mean, because that's what they're meant for, right? So that you can lay them down and get there where you need to get. So, because I thought they were supposed to be fairly easy.
Yeah, I had no.
if I may, we've covered a lot of ground on this. I think we all agree that one of the things we want to do if we want to see Greensburg grow is improve the quality of life. That's part of what the walking trails are about. And I think this ties into the safety of the walking trails in a number of other places. I think I heard from a number of sources that they could have used a UTV down on the square for the fall festival, to move stuff around, whatever, when parades and stuff are over. So I think, yes, we could postpone this. I think the other side of that is one of our board members approached the chief about it, not the other way around. We really opened that can of worms, so to speak, up. As far as I'm concerned, we should vote on it tonight.
Sure, and I'll say, I did, it was about 8 months ago, there were several officers that were here, and it was right after there was an arrest, where there were some gentlemen at the Fuel Park, and there was an arrest, and it was front page news, and we were talking about trails, and I simply asked the officers, chief was not here at that point, I said, hey, we're looking at more trails, what's the biggest issue you guys see? And they brought up bikes. You know, we have bikes, some of us can't get on them, you know, we want to get on them. And I said, okay. And I came in the meeting that night and I said, hey, just an idea, we're looking at trails, why don't we look at safety with them? And that's where it carried through, obviously. Proposal was sent out, I met with the chief since then and talked to him in depth about, okay, why? At first I thought, okay, bikes. You know, are they that expensive? Do we need to pay for them? Is it something that even fits with us? I shot some emails out to Mr. Tabby beforehand and said, is this something we should even look at? Can we look at it? What are we doing with this before we go any further or have him come and speak? You know, what should we do? And the more I thought about it, the more I researched it and looked at other places as well, I felt like, okay, if that's what they need, we're talking about $4,600 here for the bikes. It's not that big of a deal. And in my opinion, for safety, and with all the issues going on, heard WTRE on the way home this evening, and they were talking about more break-ins, more crimes, and I thought, goodness, you know, if there's something if we're causing a problem, I just don't want to create problems with our board, creating problems in town that can't be taken care of. I don't want to build trails that can't be taken care of. I don't want to pass it on to someone else. I don't want to build something and say, yeah, maintenance is to you, or that problem's to you, or safety's to you. We just build it and walk away with a smile on our face. I want to be careful with whatever we do, that it doesn't fall on the taxpayers later. It isn't the taxpayers' problem. It isn't, you know, more staffing needed because we can't get in what they have or around what they have. And so I guess with some heavy thought, it made sense to me at least that safety should be a concern when there's already issues out there. And if this is what it takes, you know, it made sense. Then obviously on the actual project list, this has to go with the project. It isn't going to fall in with, you know, a lot of our other projects. This isn't going to come close to being able to fit into that. The whole concept with quality of life when we initially did the project plan in Rebekah Park was to just nail down the quality of life stuff in and be done. And that's why Stellar came in as well. with that project at Rebekah Park was quality of life and what can we do for improvements for the future and be done with that part. So I guess when I'm looking at it, I'm thinking we're jumping to another project with Lincoln Street. Ideally, I would like to see us to go to another project. I don't want to leave, 4 or 5 projects open at once either and be sitting here with Rebekah Park open, Lincoln open, Veterans Phase 2 open, to go to another project as well and not completed. It's just as bad as the roads that aren't completed currently that we're trying to correct. So that's my 3 cents.
So,
Well, it's not just $4,000, we're looking at $22,000 without some estimates on some of the other costs.
We're looking at a total with a UTV of right at $23,000 total with the 3 bikes and the UTV is what they're asking for, correct? So and that's with nothing. Is there something else that's outside the proposal that I was given that I sent out?
There was no number attached on how much it would cost for lights and sirens.
We have those. Stop.
That's good to hear.
I'd entertain a motion.
I would make a motion that we go ahead and buy the bikes and the UTV for the police department. That we spend no more than, what was it, 23, no more than $25,000 on it.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ed. Do we have any other discussion?
So, Mr. Tubby, this falls within,
I'd like to
The
give you a
realm of the
100%
10?
answer, but
I mean, I have a hard time with the not 100%. I want it, I'm feeling it's not cut and dry. And I'm all about cut and dry. And making sure that we're within the
All the
statute.
statutory requirements.
So, okay.
And I guess to me, I mean, you mentioned that we need to be stewards of safety in our community. The citizens, we do, absolutely. But we have a board of works to handle that. That's what they're meant for, the safety and of the citizens. They handle the police department, fire department. It's not our duty. Again, I think they need it. I just don't think we're the right revenue source, so. Mr. Mayor, did you want to say something?
Sure. Well, I'm gonna throw a big wrench in this thing. I think we ought to put cameras out there. To have cameras around the trails and in different areas out there would be a more able for us to have more eyes on that area. That's just my opinion.
Any other discussion? Hearing no other discussion, we'll call for a vote. Could we have a roll call, please, Judy?
Ted Michael,
Nay.
Adam Winslow,
Yes.
and Hornick,
Yes,
Ivan Keeler,
Nay.
Jody Hoffman, nay.
I would like to ask, though, that Mr. Tebby check the statute for us to see if we can. That's the reason for we had a
Mine
motion
too.
on the floor, and
That's really the only reason for mine too.
if we could check that out for our next meeting. But I think the mayor brought up a good point too. If we're with safety, bicycles are good. I don't know who to look to research cameras and that sort of thing. But that is a good safety option to have cameras monitoring things. I don't know how to go about that. I'm not a very-
Well, one thing's for sure, it's gonna be a heck of a lot more than $25,000.
I'll give into that.
And then finding
Will we have the police monitor to go out there,
Locations.
or would you monitor mayor to run out, or who would monitor?
I just said that there'd be cameras, I didn't say outs. I wouldn't recall this stuff. I just thought because I hear all of them that around the cities and stuff, they're starting to go to the cameras in those different areas. And where they can't see, and it just keeps track of people a little bit better. You know, you're not gonna see everything, but at least you would know who's on that trail.
Well, I know my experience on the school corporation, having cameras in the school buildings, it made it real easy 3 or 4 years ago when someone broke into the school. You know, some of the cameras are monitored all the time by personnel, but if there's recording, you can come back later to the camera and maybe get some good video evidence. But
Was dispatched to the monitor school?
They will not monitor the cameras on the trails. It's already been asked.
Really?
Yep.
Well, they do monitor the schools, right?
Nope. They will not monitor the schools either.
Oh, I thought they had some kind of special hookup for north and south.
They don't monitor them, they have access to it, but they
Yeah,
don't.
okay. Well, I mean, there's something fancy when they can get there. I just want to know.
Problem not solved.
Well, I think that this brings
have
up
the
a great
capability,
point.
they don't do
I
that
mean, I
as
think
much.
we see now that,
Did I
and
say that
I
right?
totally agree
They
with
have
what
the
you said,
capability, they
Adam,
just don't do
about
it, right?
building something, but then building it and not having a sustainability plan. And that is extreme, because we've got a lot of different projects that are on the table. And I think, you know, perhaps when it gets down to the actual design and putting these costs together, some of that needs to be cut back in order to set money aside for sustainability of the project, or have a plan in place, because the bottom line is that these are great investments that we're making, but if they aren't properly maintained and secure, they can turn into a negative real quick. So I think it's glad that it's brought to light.
If I could just get some clarification, Dave, you said that you had said nay because you want to find out if we could bring it back up again?
No, just so we can answer the question if it's 100%. If our council can let us know that it's meets all the statutory requirements, I don't want there to be any gray area. That we're allowed to spend money on this.
So just so I understand, so if council says, yes, it meets the requirements,
And if we would bring this up next month, if it
Well,
was
that's what I'm
required,
asking.
then I would, yes, then I would
That's what I'm
change my
asking.
vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay.
Next item on the agenda, approval of claims. We have one claim this evening from American Structure Point in the amount of $1,635.50.
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry,
Just the total. Can you say that amount again?
$1,635.50.
Thank you.
I'd entertain a motion to approve the claim.
So moved.
Thanks, Wyatt. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Judy. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. That looks like that concludes our agenda. Our next meeting will be in 4 weeks on October 19th. If there's no other business, we'll adjourn our meeting.